Hello everybody, my name is Alex, and this is the 4th episode of our podcast, Reframing Modern Medicine. Our mission is to bring awareness on the evolving treatment choices for the human condition. This episode is a continuation from last episode, where we interviewed Gloria Valencia, a family and marriage therapist, about depression and anxiety. This episode, we focus mostly on how family can affect mental health. If you would like to enjoy this podcast with video, please check out our page on Spotify and YouTube. Thanks, and we hope you enjoy.
And going back to like moms, because, on a daily I get moms that come in, they're under tremendous stress. And I think we also talked about how we didn't want them to, I tell them, you need to lower that stress level. Breathing, exercise. I recommend the little basic things. Right. But they generally will kind of like, yeah, okay. Some of them will try it, and some of them will get to that breaking point where they know I'm like, I did everything I could physically to help you. And now I know that it's no longer in your body. It's coming from your from your thoughts. It affects your body. And then it's coming down and manifesting in your body. And I tell them all the time, stress manifests in the body, There's a few books on that, right? And so one woman actually did it because her mom was sick. Or her father was sick, and she'd go to Mexico, and then she had her own kids, and they had their own problems, but she left, and the father was in trouble, and so she would take care of him. He had dementia and a few other things, and the mom was just giving her a hard time. Oh, why are you doing that? Oh, why he doesn't like that? Do this. And it was stressing her out, even though she was trying to help. And then when she got back, she realized, like I told her, you need to figure out another method to help without being there. And then she did. She hired someone to go help, and then she worked on herself. And she literally came from a walker to a weekend later. Like she was like, I don't have a walker anymore. Like I'm okay. I kind of stopped thinking about it, and I just sent someone else to go there. So I wasn't going. I was just blown away. I was like, dang, this stuff works. It's amazing how powerful your mind is.
Yes. And that's what I mean about understanding what is yours to manage and what belongs to somebody else. Yeah. Right? Because if I'm stressed, like I said, for my parents and my father, they lived in Utah. I can't be over there every weekend. It's just too much. There's no way, right? So we had to figure out, we have family over there. So what are they taking care of? If I like it, I don't like it, that's besides the point. Unless I'm going to go and do something different, right? Yeah. So it's allowing other helps to come in. If, like this person, she couldn't do it, but she hired somebody. So that way, the parents are still having the help that they need. Yeah. She's providing that help, but she doesn't have to physically be there. Yeah. And so that's a release of stress. Again, finding your triggers. If visiting her parents was so stressful for her, then she figured out, well, if I have somebody that's a caregiver, when I go, I don't have to do any of that. I can actually just go and visit.
Yeah, spend time with them.
Right. So there's that stress level just lowered. When we talk about our stress level, it's like, what is it that we're stressing about, and how much of it is mine to stress, and how much am I stressing for whatever's going out there? Right? Like this, she was stressing over her father's care. Right? Yeah. Once she found somebody that could give him his care, that was solved, stress went down.
Well, the mom too, right?
Right. So stress went down.
Yeah.
So it's about understanding that, what is my stress level? I mean, we stress over the economy. What can I do about that? Can I find a better job? Where can I cut corners? There's things we don't have control over the economy. Yeah. So how much of that can I control? Well, I can control my spending, right? Maybe I can find another job. But as far as inflation is going to keep going up, I can't do anything about that. Yeah. All I can do is, how do I manage my little spot over here?
Yeah, I told you how. I'm just a sugar daddy.
Yes, I'm sugar daddy. Olvídate. ¿Cuándo? Do you know one? Because I'm looking for one.
Monse was saying that the front staff girl was making fun of she's like, you're old, Dr. Rivas, right? And they're young. She's like, you're not a sugar daddy. You'd be a sugar granddaddy. And I was like, oh, my God. I'm like, yeah, I'm not that old. Relax, man.
No, you'd still be a sugar daddy. But hey, and sometimes that's what we need to release our stress, a sugar daddy. Because then I have all the money that I need. I can do whatever I want, and there goes my stress. No. And it's about that, recognizing, again, when my children are adults. As a parent, we need to learn those boundaries. My adult child is going to do what is best for my adult child. And that's a really hard point for our community because we are not individualistic.
Right. You were telling me, we talked about this. Yeah. The group mentality.
The group mentality, yeah. And so, and again, that's if, so my girls are basically second generation. I've been here forever and a day. I've been here on and off, but legally here since I was 13 years old. So I have grown up in the U.S., right? All my education's here. Even though I wasn't born here, I still consider myself to be first generation.
Right.
Right. So my girls are second generation. So the dynamics between her and them and I is different than the dynamics between me and my mother, because my mother is more traditional. Right. I grew up with those very traditional roles. Right. I was a girl. You get out of school, you find a good man, you get married, you have babies. Work and a career was not part of that conversation. But I'm in my 60s. Right? So, again, it's having an understanding, where is your parent coming from to be able to have some of these conversations and understand why they worry about you, why they stress over you. Right.
Yeah, because, a lot of times, most of the time when the women come in, they're stressed about a lot of things. They're stressed about the fact that, and they have younger kids, maybe like in their teens or, whatever. Or it doesn't matter, I guess you're right. But in general, they my kids are stressing me out. My kids stress me out. My this is stressing me out. My parents, And I mentioned to you before, like, how do I tell them? I tell them, like, you need to manage that. Stop stressing. And that's not the right answer because you're like you said, you're trying to change them and you can't do that. You're telling them not to be themselves, right?
Right.
So then the right approach would be...
Well, for if you have teenagers, like if your child is struggling with something, what's going on with your child? This is a hard town to raise children.
Yeah.
This is a difficult place. And unfortunately, after COVID, a lot of right now, teenagers, anxiety is rampant around teenagers. And then you go with depression, right? So they're there. Is your kid acting out? What's going on with them? What's going on at home? Because remember, whatever's going on at home is affecting your kid. I always tell parents, I say, because when they come, I don't work with children anymore. And I'll tell you why.
No. Do tell.
No, do tell. No, children, if you have a child that's having behavioral issues, that's, a lot of children don't have the language to say what's bothering them. So what's going on at home, right? Is it because maybe parents work too much and he doesn't see his parents very often? Is he being abused by a babysitter? It's what else is going on, right? So you always have to think, like, what's going on in the home with the parents? If you're married and you and your wife hate each other, but we never fight in front of the kids.
Yeah, that's very common. I hear that all the time.
Every time I hear that, it's like, yeah, you don't, but don't you think your child picks up on the energy that you and your husband are there just like, Have you ever seen people together that they cannot be further apart? You just see that disconnect. Your child feels that. Right? And whenever I hear this, like, oh, no, we don't do that. And I was like, you may not, but your child still knows what's going on. They may not know the language to describe it, but they know the feeling. They know that you and their dad don't talk to each other. They know that you never speak to each other, right? That and when they do, maybe it's in your room, but they hear the yelling, they hear the loud voices, they hear the negative in that. If I'm mad at you, I'm not going to speak to you in a caring tone. It's going to be short, rude.
That's why I talk to Alex. No, I'm just kidding.
See, that's why Alex is over there depressed. See, now we found your trigger, Alex.
He's going to quit. Don't say that. I need you, Alex. Yeah. But yeah, that's because time and time again, they keep coming in, and then I get grandmothers. Then it feels like it multiplied. It was like I had a problem as a mom. Now I'm a grandmother, and it's like abuelita's got issues because everybody else got issues, and it's like, damn, like, relax, grandma. Like, it's supposed to be easier as you get older. I don't know, but I suspect that you would think as we get older, that life should become a little less stressful, or at least easier, you know?
But again, what is the generational trauma that you have going on?
Generational trauma is trauma that extends from one generation to the next. It begins when a group experiences a traumatic event that causes economic, cultural, and familial distress. In response, people belonging to that group develop physical or psychological symptoms.
Right? If grandma had trauma that she never processed, grandma was abused, or, I mean, again, with the migration, what was their pattern of coming here?
Yeah.
How did they get here?
Yeah, I've heard the stories. Yeah.
Right. How did they get here? It's like people with the survivors of the Holocaust. If you look at their children, right, their children have a lot of issues because of the parents. You know, like the parents didn't talk about what happened to them in the camps. You know, they have hoarding issues, some of them, with food, you know, with certain things that they need, right?
Right.
So again, because mom had a room full of food because they were afraid they were going to run out, right? And without thinking for mom, she also passed down that fear and that trauma to their child. So you have to look, if it's grandma, daughter, you know, grandma, mom, and the daughter all come in and they're all kind of having the same thing. It's like, what kind of issues are being just recycled is that generational trauma.
But how does that work now with, like, because like women, at least from my understanding, women are kind of the sponges of emotion, right? It's been described this way, and so when you have that, and then you have roles, gender roles, or, you know, roles of partnership or marriage, and you're coming from, you know, first generation, second generation, how does one manage that? Because, you know, traditional versus American, there's big changes.
There's two opposites, right? There's two opposites. Like I said, here in America, we learn to be individuals, right? You take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You know, right? In the Latino community, we're a group. We all take care of each other, right? And so when you have this generational issues, let's say grandma had trauma. She never processed it. How did she raise her child? Was she abusive? Was grandma abusive? Right? Was grandma emotionally withdrawn from her kid? I'm there and I'm feeding you, but do I ever hold you? Do I ever tell you I love you? Do I ever show any care for you?
Yeah.
Right? So grandma's there and she's feeding this and that, but you're not getting that emotional support that you need. And we do parent unless we actually take an active role to change those things. We parent the same way we were parenting.
Yeah.
Right. So if I went to trauma, I need to, first of all, be aware that this happened to me, that this affects me. How do I change it so that I don't repeat it with my own kid?
Yeah. But sometimes you don't realize that it's a bad thing because people say, well, look at me, I'm fine. I got a job. I bought a house. I'm working, you know. This kid's not on the street. He's not a gangster or whatever. So that's the response, or at least their go-to when someone says something like that. And it's like, well, but still.
Well, and again, it's like, yeah, I go to work, but are you the functioning alcoholic?
A functioning alcoholic is someone who is dependent on alcohol but is still able to function effectively within their daily lives. That means that they'll still be able to continue doing many of their daily tasks, just like going to work.
Are you the guy that comes home and beats on your wife? Are you the one that, you know, cheats, you know, every single person that comes around you, and, you know, you're going to be cheating? You know, there's other things that we do. So we can never say, I'm all right if I never process my trauma. Yeah. Something's going on with you.
Yeah. And how does one even begin that process to find out? I feel like people find out later in the later stages of life, towards the end, because when you're younger, I think you're so consumed with life, you know, whether you're a parent or whatever, going to school, you're so busy, there's no time to think twice about anything. And then especially not yourself at times. And then when we get older, everything becomes, at least for me, it feels like it's more precious. It's so much more meaningful that I don't, like, I think about, just thinking about my mom right now. It's like, I want to go see her and I want to make it about her. I want to hang out with her. I want to, like, take her out to eat, make her laugh, you know, do these things. and it's only then. But how does one, with such a busy life, even begin that process? Or like, you know.
And that's where you have to put yourself first. And that's something we don't do in our community. Whenever I tell my clients, like, you have to remember you have to be first. And they look at you like, no, what do you mean? I'm the last person that eats. I'm the last person at that table, right? I'm the last person that goes to bed. I'm the last of everything. My family is first.
But that's a leadership thing. And so with leadership, that's one of the things that... it's kind of one of the fundamentals, they say, at least from the military, and I've heard it in other realms, that you're there before and you stay after, and you make sure everyone is taken care of. Like here at work, I try to do that. I try to make sure, you know, is everyone okay? Does everyone have what they need? We have the resources necessary? Okay, fine. You know, sometimes I'm like, Alex, you want something to eat or something? All right, we're good. So I try to do that, but I don't know, in the case of moms, like, is there a place for it, or is that an incorrect way to process and handle things?
There's a difference, though, right? If I'm totally consumed with my children's care and I don't take care of myself, I mean, you look pretty well put together, so you take care of yourself. I'm sure you have lunch. You don't just feed Alex and you don't feed yourself, right? If you're tired, you work out. You do all these things, that's your self-care. So you are putting yourself first in order for you to provide services for others. I always tell people, if I'm not feeling well, of course my sessions are not going to be well, right? So I have to take care of myself so that when I have a client, I have to be present. I have to be there. I have to be there and be able to be there for them. You know, I can be sitting there thinking about my own stuff. You know, because I lost my commitment to that person. The same thing as a parent. Going back to this grandma. Grandma was there feeding you. Grandma was there, you know, doing all these things for you. But she was never there emotionally because she wasn't there emotionally for herself. Because I don't want to feel those emotions. I don't want to be angry. Right? I don't want to, you know, and you kind of fake it. Right? Grandma smiles, but then you're like, but grandma's kind of distant, you know. Grandma really never really has deep conversations. Right? Grandma's kind of, yeah, she's happy in the kitchen, and that's great if when she comes out with her food, it's like, we're going to share. And, you know, so have you seen those commercials where grandma comes out and everybody's so happy and you know. Not all meals are that way. You know, grandma cooks, it's like, this is what I give you.
Yeah.
Right? But it's a chore that I have to do. It's not something that I like to do or maybe enjoy doing. It's something that I have to do.
But I think mothers tell me and grandmothers say they take real joy into that. Some of them, maybe not all of them, because they're like, you know, I'm feeding the kids.
Yeah, but that's also very cultural. That's our role, right? I mean, I'll tell you a funny story. So when my oldest daughter became pregnant, you know, of course, I'm calling everybody and telling them my child is pregnant. And at that time, how old is my grandbaby? She's 14. So at that time, I was still going to school and I was working. And a relative of mine actually says, oh, so you're going to quit working, right? And I'm like, why would I quit working? What are you talking about? She's like, well, you're the grandma. You're supposed to stay home and care for her. And I'm like, whoa. I'm not that kind of grandma. Sorry.
American grandma.
Yeah, but American grandma, I still work.
Yeah.
You know, but those are the roles. Those are very specific cultural and gender roles.
Yeah.
Right? It flew out of her, and it was a woman. It flew out of her mouth like,
it's natural,
and, you know, natural. Like, that was, and I'm like, no. I said, even as raising my children, I always worked because that was important for me. You know, I had my role as a parent, but I also needed a role of who I am, my person. What do I enjoy? What do I do? And that's I think the difference in me able to set certain boundaries with my daughter, because I never lost who I am. Yes, I am their mother, but I'm Gloria first.
Yeah. How do I convince women of that? How do I tell grandma that? How do I tell all the moms? Because that's really what I want to know, right? Every day it's that struggle of you know, the mom's got 3 kids. She's a single mom, and you know, no one takes care of the kids except her. The partner's gone, or whatever the situation may be, or new to the country, etc. It's like I feel terrible sometimes because the stories they share, And I tell them, one day I'll be a millionaire, marry you all, and then I'll have all the kids. she's like, me habla, okay? And I was like, no, I'm just kidding. But it really is tough because going back to the story of my friend telling me that, you know, her mom then eventually like got to that point where she just had a like breakdown. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm surprised it's not happening more often given these circumstances in this town. Yeah. You know, or in any town really, but the way they cope, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, and one of the things that like I said, going back to what I had said earlier, because I do work with older women, and in some ways it's very difficult because they have very solid walls. I call them walls, right? Solid walls. It doesn't matter what you say. Like, yep, it just bounces back. Like, it's not going through.
Like stuck in their ways, kind of.
It's stuck in their ways, right? And so you kind of go back to, at least what I try to do is ask, like, oh, so what kind of things do you like? Oh, I love to cook, really. So let's talk about what you like to cook. And then sometimes they get, you know, after certain conversations, like, you know, I cook because that's what I have to do. That's what I do. Okay, so what else do you like to do? I don't cook. I like to bake. Like, don't put me in the kitchen, right? Yeah. I like to bake. So that's how I show my love. But it's kind of opening, you know, what we call it, peeling the onion.
Yeah, Simone.
Right, peeling the onion.
Pick it up.
Yeah, a ver qué está aquí. What's underneath there, you know? Yeah. Grandma, what do you like to do? Grandma, where do you have fun? Grandma, do you have any friends? And some friends, they'll tell you no. Okay, no. Are you part of the church? Can you join a church group? And so I'm like, I don't know. No tengo raite. I hear a lot of that.
Very common.
No tengo raite. A ver, tiene mami, like, you have Medicaid? Okay, let's call transportation because you can get rides to certain places.
Oh, that's
what
nice.
are we going to do here, right? Because there's different, some of them, you know, if they're not medical, they still need to pay maybe like $4 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. It's like, so Grandma, when was the last time you hung out with your friends? When was the last time you just spent some time by yourself where you didn't have 20 little munchkins running around after you?
We gotta put Grandma to work, though.
Well, and then Grandma has been working, right? Because, you know, sometimes, again, my grandson, he's 7. It's like, Grandma. I'm like, not today, sweetie. I'm tired. Let's see what we do. Come here. Hang out with me outside.
Yeah.
You know, because I do stuff outside. Like, hang out with me outside. He finds rocks. He does this. Oh, that's cool. Oh, show me a bug, you know. But I'm still doing what I need to be doing, and I'm still spending time with him.
So it's finding activities that keep you guys kind of both busy, and because the thought of last night I also spoke to someone else, another mom, and she told me, you know, they always say you gotta pour from, you know, fill your cup up and pour from it, and she says as a mom, I mean that's what she was saying, as a mom you're pouring. There's nothing in the cup. You're just pouring.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying is that if you are not okay, you are not going to give what the other person needs, right? That's the self-care. And I know for a lot of people, it's like, but that's, self-centered, eres muy orgulloso, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And I say, you know, some of those self-cares are very simple. I was looking, you know, I'm always trying to steal this book.
Yeah, go for it.
But in this, the breathing. Like, as simple in the morning, instead of jumping out of bed and running around to go make breakfast, lunches, or whatever, sit in your bed, stretch. Mm-hmm. Stretch for a couple of minutes, right? Then when you're fully stretched, just look at babies when they wake up. Man, they do the best stretches, right? They just stretch, and then you see, like, the little motor kind of starts, right? That's what we need, and that's very simple. It's going to take you, what, a minute? Just stretch, yawn, get some air into your lungs. Mm-hmm. Get up, drink a big glass of water, because that gives you energy. Because you have been asleep for a certain amount of time, you're dehydrated. Mm-hmm. Very simple. Energy. Before you drink your coffee, make sure you're drinking at least 8 ounces of water. Just water.
All right.
Right?
Cualquier agua.
Cualquier agua, nomás que no sea agua yesca. Or any of those things. Right? Just plain no water, right?
All right.
Again, you know, those are things. Breathing. And the breathing exercises are super, super easy. Breathe in through the nose slowly. Breathe out through your mouth slowly. Yeah. You can do a count. And I tell people even 3 breaths can help you relax.
Yeah, 3. And what about as a male? with a partner, how would you recommend that they approach it to help their partner through these daily tasks and, you know, struggles?
Well, again, it's something that before you offer help, you need to really figure out what it is that your partner needs.
Well, I mean, I don't know. If I see them struggling, I'm like, it's like if I saw you carrying a box every day. In my mind, I'd be like, I think Gloria needs help. Gloria need help. Nah, I got it. And you're struggling on it. And then at some point, I'm like, all right, Gloria got hurt now, or maybe she fell. I'm like, Gloria, I'm helping. I don't care what you say. I've got to pick up the box.
But see, that's the whole thing. If I tell you I'm okay, right, then you have to respect that. I say, really? But when you need help, let me know. I'm here to help you, right? Because sometimes we do have to fall. And a lot of times it becomes more of a trigger o te enfadas que alguien te esté siempre diciendo, te quiero ayudar. Because then you're reminding me that I'm not able to care for myself.
Like you're a victim or something?
Yeah. Not necessarily a victim, that I'm less than. Because if you're always having to care for me,
yeah,
then you're letting me know that I can't care for myself. And remember, when little kids, you know, we teach them self-sufficiency, right?
Yeah.
And that's what? Learning to care for themselves. So when I broke my arm, because I've always been very self-sufficient, you know, just because of my background, how we grew up and stuff like that. So when I broke my arm, it was really, really hard for me to ask for help.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So when I was in a cast, it was easy because people could see my cast.
Yeah.
Right? Because I will need help opening this bottle. Sometimes I still need help to open the bottle, right?
I'm right here.
Yeah, there you go. Right. But once it was gone, then I'm like, how do I tell people that I can't open this damn bottle of water, that I need help?
Right.
So I had to work through that because I needed help, because I can't be hurting myself all the time. So it's, again, I have to recognize that I do need help in order to accept your help.
Right. Yeah, because I've had individuals that come in with injuries, and even friends that, you know, have gone through injuries so severe that they're paralyzed now. And so that's got to be overwhelming too. That's what you're saying, but at a very extreme, you know, drastic change in their lifestyle.
And again, it has to do with where you are in your life. As I told you with my closed head injury, I'm partially deaf from it. I still have depth perception issues. I'll walk into doors. I walk into the wall, you know. I do.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I know they're there, but I'll still bump into them. I'll still walk into them and stuff because I don't have that perception, right? But when it happened to me, I was in a place in my life where I saw it as a blessing what had happened to me, right? Because I always wanted to go to school. But, you know, life was in the way. I had children. I worked. I had a family. I had a husband. I had a home. I had all these things that I needed to take care of. I had this accident, and the doctor's like, man, you're lucky. This should have killed you. And I'm like, oh. I remember when he said that to me, I sat there. I'm like, well, thank you, baby Jesus, you know, because I have my girls. You know, it's like I have to raise my girls. Thank you. You know, I'm glad. I'm going to be here for my children. My daughters were 13 and 6.
Oh, my goodness.
Right. But then after, because by the time I was able to, you know, kind of function, it had been about 2 to 3 months. And then I'm like, he did say I was lucky I was alive. So what does that mean for me? Do I keep doing the same, or do I follow some of those dreams I had? I wanted to be a college graduate. My accident happened in June. January of next year, I was in college. I enrolled in school because I didn't see it as a deficiency, even though I lost my hearing, even though I was, you know, I had to learn to redo a lot of things, right? I saw it as an opportunity, right? It's like God gave me, you know, one door closed, something else open. God gave me an opportunity to follow my dreams.
Yeah.
And so amazing. Went back to school. Took me forever. I did my associates, bachelor's, my master's degree, right? And for a minute there, I thought of a PhD, but I'm like, nah, mucho trabajo.
Oh, I know. Isn't that what life's about?
I'm like, no. I'm like, no. But again, it's how you take these things.
Yeah.
Right? Am I going to be defeated, or am I going to see the silver lining?
Yeah. In your case, that's amazing. Congratulations to you. That is an amazing
you.
story. I didn't even know this.
Oh, yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm like, oh,
yeah. Yeah, but that's awesome. I do it all the time.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you my other stories now.
But what do I do in the case of let's just say or what would anyone do in the case of you know, like at a mom come in and she said, you know, my son passed away, and it'd been maybe a year, and she was like, this was the kid that took care of me, and I shared with her, I told her, you know, in that moment she started to tear up, right? And I told her, you know, first thing I told her, I don't know if it's right, but I told her, I don't think you should cry, because I'm sure your son would not like you to cry, at least in this moment when you're trying to help yourself. You're trying to, you know, work on yourself here. And I told her, what was your son like? She described him. He was the one that would, you know, buy me all these things and try to help me to feel better, send me to the doctor. And I told her, I'm right here. I'm him. I'm like, you got to understand that even though your son's not here, he's here with us, and I'm him. And it kind of helped a bit, because then she stopped crying and she smiled and she realized that, because I told her I have a mom too, and I help all the mamas here, you know. There's a lot of mamas here and I need to help them. So, and it really helped her in that moment. But I don't know what else to say. What would be would you say the best thing to say, or what would you do in that situation?
Well, for her, what I would say, I wouldn't tell her not to cry. That's not something that I would say. But then again, you know, it's in a different, like I said, right, whatever you feel that is appropriate and the person accepts it, it's appropriate. Right? Like I said, there is no formula. But what you told her is right. I always tell people this is like, remember, there's earth angels. I always say earth angels, right? And it's like, oh, you know, this and that. And I met a person that's really helpful. Or, you know, I was in this mess and, you know, this person came out of nowhere. I'm like, you know, that could be your earth angel, right? And they're like, never thought about that. I said, no, pay attention. There's a lot of people out there that are willing to help you, that are willing to hear you, you just have to allow yourself. Because a lot of the times, because we're depressed, because we have a loss, we close down. And that's situational, right? She lost her son. When we talk about grief is not linear. Grief doesn't have a time period.
Yeah, I learned that.
You know, it's not. One day I could be perfectly fine and I'll be happy, and the next day I'm just upset and crying and sad. The next day I might be pissed. Like, why did this happen to me? You know, and the next day I'd be like, man, you should have taken me instead of that person, right?
Yeah.
So you go through all that. And that's the first thing I tell people when they're in mourning is like, you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, right? Because it's not linear. I use a lot the road, you know, like, if you get in the freeway, you're going to have straight road. You're going to have curves. You're going to go uphill. You're going to go downhill. There's going to be detours. There's going to be bumps on the road. I said, that's how life is. So there's going to be days where you're going to be good. You know, and for you to say, yeah, you know, sound like you're still having, you know, you're still, you know, mourning for your child. But remember, you do have, and here I am. And what you said, I mean, she probably connected to you with that. It's like, this is, because again, I always tell people, it's like, we don't leave. When we die, we don't leave. We're here. That's the spirituality part that I talk about. You know, how do you connect with those parts? So, and again, just say, you know, I understand that, you know, it must be really, really hard. It sounds like he was really, really good to you, you know. You know, is there, you know, I'm here and I can do this, but, you know, who else in your life do you have that's like that? Do you have friends? You know, is there other people out there that also support you? And, you know, and how do you honor your son? Because that's something that I also say. How do you honor your son? By taking care of yourself and making sure that you're okay.
Yeah, and I said it, and I said something along those lines too. Like, he'd want you to take care of yourself. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
But wow, yeah.
And again, because you are acknowledging their pain.
Yeah.
A lot of us, the issue why we close down is because people tell us we shouldn't feel that way. Oh, ya tiene años que se murió. Ya tiene años que te divorciaste. Ya tiene, you know, it doesn't matter. If it still pains me, then it's still valid.
Yeah.
Our emotions are valid. What we do with our emotions is what gets us in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can be mad. That doesn't mean I get to punch you.
You could try.
You could try, right? But I have a right to be mad. I do not have a right to act out on my anger. And the same thing with sadness and grief. I have a right to feel that. But I really don't have a right to just put myself into that hole. And when I say right, is that you're not only damaging yourself, If you talk to this mom, does she have other kids? Does she have a husband?
Yeah.
How are they dealing with?
Yeah.
Right? So is that effect that, como cuando echas una piedrita al agua, you know?
The ripples of the
water. The
water.
ripples, right? It's the same thing. I'm not good, and I'm the mom, the grandma. Here's my husband, here's my other children. They know they're feeling it because I am not meeting their needs either. You know, if I'm always feel sick and like, ay, no me siento bien, hijo. Me voy a acostar.
Yeah.
Because in our community, what I see a lot with, especially women, they come in with a lot of physical issues, a lot of headaches, stomach aches, you know, and it's all that. It's that emotion, but you can't really process it. Maybe because you will never learn that it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to do that. Gender roles. Even though we are the emotional creatures, we're also the ones that are supposed to manage your emotions. Yeah, remember we're the keepers of everything.
Yeah, my cousin said that once. She said the women are the keepers, and women are very powerful, very the strength and the backbone of families and stuff.
And it's not about not having stress. Like, I have plenty of stress, but it's how do I take care of it? How do I take care of myself? You know, do I exercise? Do I eat well? Do I sleep? Do I cut down on the drinking? You know, who do I hang out with? What things do I do?
Yeah,
you know, like the other day, self-care, right? Like when I tell you, I'm a vendor. I come in here and I'm tired, but I'm like, but that felt pretty good, you know, even though I worked all this hard, it was cool. I spent time with people, not doing my job. It's a different way of interacting. I got satisfaction because I made money. I got satisfaction because it's the stuff that I picked that somebody liked and they bought it. So it's all these, even though there's a lot of work, there's also a lot of benefits for me. It makes me feel good that my business is doing well. It makes me feel good that my client came back to see me again. It makes me feel good that, I get along with my kids. It makes me feel good that this happened. Of course, I'm not totally happy because there's stuff in the world, but I'm very content. Difference.
We all need to be more content.
Yes. Because when we shoot for happiness, we think there's only one way to get it, right? Then everything has to be perfect. But if we're content, we're opening ourselves to say not everything's going to be okay. There's still going to be problems. But overall, 80% of the time, 70% of the time, I feel pretty good. So I'm content.
Is that what you would tell someone that has like kids and is struggling to like, am I doing the right things? Am I, putting a lot of pressure on themselves to be this amazing parent, to make sure they don't ruin this child in their mind? You know what I mean? To be content. Is that?
Well, actually, when I have parents that come in with that, I always ask my parents to take parenting classes.
Okay.
And I tell them it's not because you're not a good parent. It's because a parenting class will give you more tools. You'll have more tools in your toolbox to really help your child. Right? Because, again, we go back to, I'm one of 7, right? We were not all the same. We all have different personalities and we all needed different things, right? But my mother treated all of us the same. Well, except the boys, because you're special.
Of course.
Right. But you know what I mean? Is like everybody was the same.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the struggle because you have a super hyper kid and then you have another that's pretty quiet. Well, the quiet one is going to be ignored because the squeaky wheel is the one that gets the oil, right? The hyper one is going to getting all the attention. And then you're laying it in this other one because, he's no trouble. He's okay.
Yeah, I think of that kid now.
Yeah, and then you grow up and you're like, I never felt loved. I felt ignored. I felt left out. The abandonment issue, because...
Middle kid syndrome.
Middle kid syndrome, right? Because the oldest gets attention, the little one gets attention, and you're just kind of in the middle.
Like, where'd he go? Saber, he left.
Yeah.
He's up there somewhere.
Yeah. It's funny, but it's, again, you have to be mindful as to me, I think the first thing that we need to do is like, do I really want to have kids? How many kids do I want to have?
Oh my God, that's a whole nother thing, because people don't want to have kids nowadays. Like my generation is just not really. I mean, you either had them already, or you're definitely like, nah, I'm good. Or people say, I just want one. One's enough. I just had one, and then that's it. But then I noticed that when there's only one, at least in like my family, I can speak for everyone, that there is a lack of interaction with a sibling or someone. I feel like, maybe she have another one. What do I know? But I'm like, I had a brother, and I had a sister, and I'd play with them and do things with them. But nowadays, no one wants to have kids. They're just like no, it's a nightmare. It's too much work, and it's expensive. That expensive usually comes first. Está muy caro. I don't got the money for it. You know, you're expensive, Alex. So number one is like, it's an expensive thing. Yes. And then they're like, oh, it's too much time and effort. But then how does that? That's a cultural thing, right? It's the American. Is it an American culture thing?
I don't think so. What I have found is that a lot of the people that don't want to have kids is pretty much the people that are like, I don't want to give my kid the kind of childhood that I had. Right? It's like, again, I'm a 1 of 7.
Sound like art.
I only have 2 kids. Yeah. Right? And there's a big age difference between my 2 girls. Oh. My oldest is in her mid-30s. My youngest is barely going to be 30. So there's a big age difference, right? Only my older sister has more than 2, simply because she was married twice. But even though we came, and the reason that I can tell you that most of my siblings, we decided to have 1 or 2, is because we knew growing up that you just don't have the time or the energy, especially if you work. If you're a full-time mom, maybe, but you don't have, at least for us, in my experience, it's like my mother did not have the tools to be raising 7 kids.
Yeah, man. That's you guys are taking care of each other, aren't you?
Yeah.
At that point.
Yes. And I talked to, like, there's, between myself, I'm the 3rd one, between myself and my youngest sister is 9 years difference, right? And we talked about how, because I was kind of like the middle kid, I was in charge of a lot of stuff, right? The parentification of a child.
Parentification occurs when a child is regularly expected to provide emotional or practical support for a parent instead of receiving that support themselves. The role reversal of parentification can disrupt the natural process of maturing, causing long-term negative effects on a child's physical and mental health.
Right. So I'm like, why would I want to raise more kids?
I hear that a lot too.
Yeah, it's like, why would I already raised a bunch of kids? I already had that experience. So now I want to be me. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able, and it's not out of selfishness. Yeah. It's just more recognizing that you may just not have the tools or just the want to reproduce.
I think a lot of people fear also not having a partner to help them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's a big thing in our in society, Yeah. And if you go back to why we have such high rates of divorce, is because, again, we don't take the time. We just assume that that's what we do. We get married. Yeah. Like I said, me growing up, I was never told why you're going to go to school. It's like, when you're going to get married.
Yeah, that's the thing that everyone asks.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know.
Man.
So again, it's the cultural stuff. A lot of it has to do with culture. A lot of it has to do with just your own experience. Do I have the skill set, the ability? Do I want to be a mom? Because children are a lot of work.
Yeah.
Not just it's not just, again, we'll go back to that grandma or that mom that fed you and clothed you and gave you a home, but she was never emotionally there for you. Yeah. But she fulfilled her cultural role at having babies. A lot of people are not willing to do that anymore, to fulfill those roles. They actually want to be able to fulfill what they need. So whenever I talk to women, they're like, I'm people are giving me a hard time because I don't want to have kids. Yeah. But that's your choice.
Yeah. Yeah, women don't want to have kids. What's going to change? Elon Musk and a few others talk about, the collapse of society and as time goes on, because there's not going to be enough young people to fill the jobs of everyone that's older. So by the time I get to my retirement age, then we'll see it all happen. Maybe things will get interesting for sure.
Well, I mean, I am the last of the baby boomers, right? I was born in 62. The baby boomers, either 62 or 64, depending where you are. You're the last of the baby boomers.
Baby boomers are people born from 1946 to 1964. They're called baby boomers because of the large increase of births after World War II.
And we're called baby boomers because after the war, they just came and exploded. Population just exploded, right? Nothing better to do, I guess. I don't know, but exploded, right?
Peace.
Yeah, peace, right? But from that, like, again, you grow up and you're like, do I really want to have those kids? You know, how did my mom handle it? Was my mother happy? Yeah. Were my parents happy?
Well, there was more support too, though, wasn't there? When you talk about group, I think that also plays a big role, because if like support, right? And so that's what I question, because people come to this city and talk about the lack of support. It's just me and the kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, like there's no one. There's no, and that makes it more difficult, I suspect. I mean,
and that's something that has happened, you know, before basically you grew up and you lived in the same place, right? You kind of stayed within that community where you did have the relatives and that, you know. If you're an immigrant, like we were immigrants, you know, we didn't have aunts and uncles or grandparents that lived here, you know. It's like that's why the kids took care of the others, you know. Did we have sitters? Yes, because we used to travel back and forth, right? If we were in Mexico, we had a sitter, but our mother wasn't there. Our parents weren't there. They were here working, right? So is that idea that no, we don't have the social support anymore, because, like I said, my parents live in Utah.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because I moved here and then my girls followed me here. And then their father followed them here.
Yeah.
So it's again, trying to maintain our community. But for many people, especially if you're here, you know, illegally and whatnot, you don't have that community.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation to have. It's such a struggle. Yeah, I think we covered most of it. You know, the anxiety, the depression, the struggles within the family. I think it's pretty good. I think it'd be good to end here.
This is Reframing Modern Medicine with Dr. Rivas and Alex. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening, and we thank Gloria Valencia for coming onto the podcast. If you would like to check out other episodes of our podcast, please visit our page on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. This is Alex signing off for Dr. Rivas. Thanks for listening and or watching the 4th episode of Reframing Modern Medicine, and we hope to see you again soon.